So my second proposition is here. OBE can be seen as a literary theory. To read OBE-based literature, what we produce by considering the trend and tendencies of the demand of OBE, I call this body of literature as OBE literature. Here the writer will produce the literature, okay, dealing with OBE. Thematic aspects or stylistic aspects will be actually based on here OBE. Not only this, we can read classical literature, modern literature, feminist literature, Marxist literature, postmodern literature in the light of OBE. The critic, instructor, and literature learners will see the literary text as the artistic embodiment of the skills, which may be related to fundamental social thinking and personal domains, highlighting transferable skills. So we can read Shakespeare's play, Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, in the light of OBE. There we can explain why the protagonist Prince Hamlet delays in taking the revenge upon the murderer of his father. We can actually look at some transferable skills, okay, whether they are present in him or not, and how his psychology is affected by his communicative skills or managerial skills and so on. So if classical literature, what we can easily read in the light of OBE, okay, we can examine the literature whether it locates and dislocates the different dimensions of outcome-based education. Next one, OBE can be considered as the literary assessment strategies. As a part of assessment, the students will be asked to locate the skills as demonstrated by the characters like Horatio, Claudius, Gertrude, Polonius, Ophelia, and others. Their interpersonal interactions, the texts which I have mentioned here are from Shakespeare's Hamlet. And the learners will also be asked to show their responses orally or in writing. Equally, other literary texts, the text may be based on OBE, which may be written in the light of OBE, or which might have written beyond OBE. All streams of literature can be read, and the students' performances can be assessed with the help of some action verbs like analyze. For example, analyze Prince Hamlet's Claudius or Claudius's Prince Hamlet's or Claudius's interpersonal or managerial or management skills. It is possible. You can ask a question with explain. Okay. Explain the hasty marriage of Gertrude with Claudius. Okay. And its effect upon their interactions, upon their psychological conditions, and so on and so on. We can certainly we can select some verbs like explain, evaluate, produce, etc. Here we can do two things. We can locate here the cognitive and metacognitive developments of the characters in the literary world. Okay. Or secondly, we can assess our students of literature, whether they have developed their cognitive and metacognitive developments while studying literature. So keeping this in our mind, we can assess our learners, we can teach our learners. Let me conclude. So actually, my attempt is to show an outline of transforming literary studies, empowering the learners with learning outcomes, including transferable skills, particularly, and building their capacity in this body of education. My presentation proposes that this theory not be confined to developing curricular and pedagogical aspects. Rather, this theory be taken into consideration as a canon for producing creative literature, interpreting literature, and in the light of OBE, assessing learners' level of understanding, lexical, formal, thematic, and stylistic aspects, or the location or delocation of OBE of literary works. So I'm optimistic. It is possible. Our writers can come forward to produce the literature in the fourth industrial revolution by applying OBE. And obviously, we have to teach students any body of literature in the light of OBE, and we have to assess them in the light of OBE. It is a must right now. So I'm optimistic here. Let's see OBE moving from principles to practices in producing and interpreting creative literature and demonstrating literary skills by students. How much our students attain the skills? We have to assess them with the help of some action verbs. Our students will be asked to produce papers. They will do their assignments, and so on, so on. We are very much familiar with these techniques, assessment techniques. Okay, so I have to acknowledge William Spady, Peter Berry. Okay, his famous book, Beginning Theory. Louis Tyson, Critical Theory is his famous book. My esteemed teacher and mentor, Rashid Ashkari, who taught us literary theory in our university days. And I also acknowledge University Grants Commission of Bangladesh for the different publications on OBE. And obviously, I have to acknowledge Fourth Industrial Revolution OBE webpage and some online materials by this time I have consulted. So when I prepare my full paper, I will acknowledge all the sources completely and fully as per the particular documentation style. So any questions, or would you give me the time for question and answer?
Thank you, Dr. Kia Medala. So
Okay,
we have a question that is Mr. Amir Ahmed Salem Khalaf. He asked one question: what is National Qualification Framework? What is the key features of this qualification? So I am iterating the question: what is National Qualification Framework, and what is the key features of the qualification? So I would ask you just answer by 5 minutes or less than that. Maybe we have another question.
So I would answer.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So actually, the question is obviously exciting. You know, in the case of Bangladesh, so there is Bangladesh National Qualifications Framework. So as per the government gazette, it was actually publicized. Before that, Bangladesh Accreditation Council was busy to prepare it, and it was also endorsed by our University Grants Commissions. So it has the particular sayings about the quality of our education. So if you want to ensure quality, we have to maintain certain criteria. We have to maintain certain standards. So as per BNQF, we have 10 standards from governance to last one is here actually our continual improvement. There are 10 standards with 63 criteria. So this is for Bangladesh. And actually, not only in Bangladesh, you know, all European countries or North American countries, all over, all the countries have their national qualifications framework. Even Bhutan has its own national qualification framework. It is the standard. So our BNQF sets 10 standards and 63 criteria. If any institution maintains this set ideas, okay, then means 10 standards along with 63 criteria, then the institution will deserve, okay, accreditation. So there are certain policies and the techniques.
Okay, sir. I got.
Okay.
So actually, this is the question is from my side. So actually, for OBE, so if you consider math, you know that math has a specific solution, or maybe an engineering problem, there might be some outcome. So OBE definitely there should have some outcome. So since you were going through the literature, so if you say that literature actually is a discipline which actually handle with some soft aspect. So what do you think? How OB is useful for the case of literature?
Okay.
So
So
what
actually
is
in my,
yeah.
Okay, thank you. In my presentation thoroughly, I want to argue one thing, that is OBE can be considered even for producing literature, any sort of literature, maybe a poem or short story, and so on and so on. For example, you're writing a short story. So in your short story, there will be the time, there will be the place. So your time and place will be based on the fourth industrial revolution. It will be based on the trends and tendencies or different features of fourth industrial revolution, and the characters portrayed in your short story, okay, will have certain attributes which are very much essential in the fourth industrial revolution.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your nice answer. It's a nice presentation indeed. So we have another honorable speaker, which Dr. Muhammad Shah Alam Mojumdar, sir. He will talk on best suite approach for TVE in Bangladesh, OBE versus CBE. So before starting his speech, I would like to introduce the idea of expertise of Dr. Mojumdar, sir. Dr. Shah Alam Mojumdar, sir, is a specialist in course accreditation, NTVQF division, Bangladesh Technical Education Board, with responsibilities to lead and facilitate a technical subcommittee for developing occupational standard, providing technical and pedagogical and development support to standard curriculum development, and also assessment tool, reviewing of quality assurance manual, and there are also other affiliation with Dr. Shah Alam Mojumdar, sir. In addition to usual responsibilities, he worked as a key member for developing Bangladesh National Qualification Framework and National TV Task Force Action Plan Preparation Committee. And sir has a total of 30 years of professional experience. And now I would like to request Dr. Mojumdar, sir, to deliver his speech. And I also request Dr. K. Ahmed Alam, sir, to unshare his slide, please. Yeah, you can start your speech, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I like to give thanks to the organizer and the moderator and my fellow presenters also. My topics is related with my practical jobs, especially it is applicable, and it is the scenario of Bangladesh Technical Education Board, what we are now doing. The topics is best suite approach for technical vocational education in Bangladesh. Is it outcome-based education or the competency-based education? So my discussion will be within this framework. And in Bangladesh, National Technical Vocational Qualification Framework is implementing since 2012, and recently in 2022 we approved Bangladesh National Qualification Framework, and our government instructed us to transform our traditional training system, we are practicing CBT, competency-based training and assessment in Bangladesh, but government instructed us to transform this system to competency-based education. That means we have two types of programs. One is training program, another one is academic program. So we are now transforming our CB competency-based system to our educational system. So which system will be suitable for us, either OBE or CBE? This is our concern today's presentation. First of all, I like to outline my presentation. What is difference between OBE and CBE? This is topics, and then OBE and CBE process cycle, then why OBE and CBE, then OBE and CBE curriculum, implementation process of OBE and CBE, key feature of OBE and CBE. This is the general discussion. Then TBE, Technical Vocational Education Program in Bangladesh, then types of syllabus or standard for the curriculum of Technical Vocational Education and Training Program, and BNQF, and alignment of the curriculum of Technical Vocational Education Program under BNQF, and the last one is the a recommendation. So first of all, OBE and CBE. Outcome-based education was propounded by William Speedy in the 1990 to bring the focus of formal education to what the student learned rather than what they were taught. Actually, OBE is a system of education giving priority to ends, purpose, accomplishment, and result. OBE means clearly focusing, organizing everything in an educational system around what is essential for all students to be able to do successfully at the end of their learning experience. But what is CBE? Competency-based education is a framework for teaching and assessment of learning. First introduced in US higher education program during the reformation of Teachers Training and Vocational Education Program in 1960. CBE established based on predetermined competencies, which focuses on the outcome and real-world performance, or the mastery of learning knowledge, skill, and attitude for an educational program or courses. You see here three layer and three types of education is shown. Number one, mastery-based education. Number two, competency-based education. And number three, outcome-based education. First, the mastery-based education. In mastery-based education, criteria for measuring proficiency, then learner support provided in this mastery of educations, and adaptive to learners' need, and adequate time to achieve proficiency. These four features is applicable for mastery-based education. But for competency-based education, all the characteristics of mastery-based education is applicable, plus the self-paced learning. All the materials will be available to the students or trainee, and all the other mastery-based educational features will be applicable in competency-based education. For outcome-based education, all the characteristics of competency-based education plus the understanding why proficiencies matter is the outcome-based education. So gradually, after mastery, the competency-based education is more effective, and competency-based education after competency is become new feature, understanding why proficiencies matter is added here. So a simple differentiation we found here. How OBE process cycle is completed. First of all, learning outcomes will be designed, developed, and determined. Then teaching and learning is implemented or delivery through a systematic procedure. Then the evidence of learning is collected or directly or indirectly. Qualitative or quantitative evidence of students' learning and achievement is gathered. Then data analysis and reporting, this is very important for outcome-based education, and the enhancement of learning. This cycle is continuous for improving in outcome-based education. But for CBE, competency-based education, first of all, the standard is required. Qualification standard or competency standard, or it's also, we can say, occupational standard is required first. Then the competency is there. In a standard, the competencies are defined in advance, measurable skills for life, measurable knowledge, and competency map is drawn. Here in Bangladesh, we practicing 3 types of competencies accommodate here. Number 1, generic competency, which is required for every people. Then the sector specific competency, we have different sector of works, and that sector specific competency is there, and the occupational specific competencies. So these are the competencies arranged in our competency standard and clustered them. Then we provide the flexible learning, personalized instruction, multi-tiered system of support, competency-based grouping, then multiple learning pathways reflect individual need, and universal design and inclusive instruction is there during the learning, and that learning is flexible for the trainee or students. Then after accomplishment of the learning, mastery of assessment is important in competency-based training and education. There, mastery is demonstrated, mastery-based promotion is there, individualized progression is observed, and checklist is used for observing the individual progression and the competencies, and there is no time progression. That means within a framework, he must do a works or job and show his mastery. This is the assessment procedure. But during the flexible learning and mastery of assessment, partial demonstration is there. After institute-based assessment and institute-based delivery of the lesson or delivery of the practical works, the mastery demonstration is done in an accredited assessment center, and this is the final assessment. After the assessment, advance to next level or course or grade. He achieved a level under the qualification framework, and he can go to the advanced level by mastery of demonstration of his jobs. Now, why OBE or CBE is CBE? Number 1, OBE or CBE, both are for producing globally competitive, competent, work-ready, employable, confident graduate. For what? for matching qualification with occupational requirement. We know our qualification is educational qualification, but industry need the occupational requirement. So OBE, either OBE or CBE, both is for matching the qualification and occupational requirement. Then minimizing the skills gap between demand and supply, recognition and accreditation of both graduate and the organization, ensuring mastery and quality of learning outcome, using similar quality assurance system, tracking graduates, employments and success, getting accord or recognition, and enhancing global mobility and the graduate exchange. All these issue factor is considered for OBE or CBE. And OBE CBE curriculum, you see here, for components of OBE programs, we can say the program educational objectives in a educational program, then the program outcome, lot of program outcome under this program educational objectives, and every program outcome have some number of course outcome and course outcome. All these are OBC, outcome based curriculum. This is academia perspective and mostly for teacher and student. So the components of OB are PEO, then competency based learning and teaching and the materials, and outcome based assessment criteria. These are the components for OB curriculum. For CB program or course or occupation, we use the terms as unit of competency and number of unit competency for an occupation or a course or a program, and unit of competency broken down in element of competency, and element of competency further breakdown in performance criteria. So number of performance criteria comprise an unit of element of competency, and number of element competency comprise an unit of competency, and number of element of unit of competency comprise a occupation or a course or a program. So competency standard or national regulation is the components of national regulation is unit of competency, element of competency, and performance criteria. This is actually national regulation perspectives with industry perspectives. Now, that was the competency standard. Now, CBE, competency-based education or competency-based curriculum. How can we mention them? The UOC, unit of competency, is now mentioned as module. Then the element of competency is learning outcome, and the performance criteria is now renamed as assessment criteria. So in a curriculum, CBC, academia perspectives, it is developed mostly needed to understand by the teacher and students, and the components are modules, learning outcome, and assessment criteria. So it is a very structured way how we transform our national regulation or competency standard to competency-based curriculum. Now, implementation process of OBE and CBE. For OBE, program educational objectives or program educational outcome developed and reviewed by the teacher, by the participants of the students also, and the university, and external stakeholders is their potential employers or industry alumni, regulatory body. They are involved in developing the program educational objectives. Then course outcome or content development or in the review, internal stakeholders or teachers are involved in this part. For course implementation, number of course implementation, and that course implementation is implemented by internal stakeholders like teachers, technicians, and students. Then the course assessment, that is the teacher's knowledge, skill, and effective student teaching, and teacher descriptive self-assessment on cohort achievement. And in this activities, internal stakeholders, teachers, and students are involved. For program evaluation, summative evaluation, exit survey, industry survey, alumni survey, external evaluation, direct and accreditation, these all are done by the external stakeholders as well as the internal stakeholders. The potential employers, industry, alumni, and regulatory body and external assessors are doing that part. This is the implementation process of OB, and here summative formative assessment is done using an specific specification of the learning, educational learning objectives, educational learning outcome, program outcomes, and the course outcomes. But in our CBE system, there are national policies and qualification framework, like National Technical Vocational Qualification Framework, or newly introduced National Bangladesh National Qualification Framework, and they have some labels. So all are these are the instrument where from the implementation or other activities started. With them, the information comes from the labor market, and this is the box for quality assurance. First of all, following the qualification framework or labels or national policies, in technical vocational education, competency standards are developed. After developing the competency standard, I have shown that the CBC competency curriculum is developed, and also developed the assessment standard. But after developing all these documents, teacher or trainer and the assessors, training, assessment, and certification is required according to our quality assurance manual. Then the CBC is translated, and we use course accreditation documents. Then accredited program or course for qualification is there, accredited organization, and CBE, competency-based education and assessment delivery system, is there. After delivery of the competency based system education or training in accredited organization, there are some accredited assessment center, accredited assessor pool under Bangladesh Technical Education Board or competent authority, and assessment of competence then done in this institute or assessment center, and a registered training organization or registered education organization also can be a assessment center, or a separate assessment center can be there. So in this assessment center, our assessment is done based on and testing the knowledge, skill, and attitude, and if they competently demonstrate their competencies, skills, attitude, then they will be awarded for qualification, and the certification, provincial certification, is given there. So this is one of the procedure after education or training. But another process is the lifelong learning system. Here the candidates, where they learn, where from they achieve the competency, who teach them, it is not our concern. Our concern is there is a competency standard, if and assessment tools for according to the competency standard. So anybody can go for an assessment in assessment center. Same tools is used for assessing the educational candidate come from the educational program or outside the program. They can assess, they can sit for assess and they get the certificate. This is called the recognition of prior learning. So this is the procedure. After graduation, they go to the employment market and they become productive workforce. So some features are competency-based education is that based on program educational outcome, performance and higher order cognitive thinking based learning is in OBE, stakeholders involvement, then accord recognition is there if OBE certified or OBE accredited institute given the certificate, well structured and linked among program educational objectives, program outcome and course outcome, then group or individual learning, both is applicable here, outcome based assessment and evaluation, then referencing of learning domain and labels, then the systematic and structured delivery and widely acceptable. This OB is if the institute or organization or university is accredited in different accords like Washington Accord for engineering, Sydney Accord, Dublin Accord. A lot of accords are internationally recognized accord, so widely acceptable in all over the world. This if they got it. Then the CBE, competency-based education. This is standard or regulation based, national standard or national regulation based, outcome or performance based, then industry involvement, then recognition of power learning, which I already mentioned, modularized course is modularized, self-paced learning is there. This is one of the important feature. Competency-based assessment is there, and criteria reference, flexible delivery system. Not that within the 4 years he have completed all his courses. He can come, enroll, complete a part or level, then he can go to the job market and then he come back in suitable time. And this is also widely recognized, especially for technical vocational education and lower level hands-on jobs. This certified people from this certification is widely recognized in the countries, in the developed countries. Now come to the Bangladesh. TBE, technical vocational education in Bangladesh, we have 4 types of programs. One is 4 years diploma, 42 technologies in engineering and other sectors, 3 sectoral area, engineering, agriculture and services, 2 years higher secondary certificate. This is we call the business management technology courses, 5 specialization is there, and 2 years SSC vocational, 16 trade, 2 years SSC vocationals or Dakhil vocationals, 29 trades are there. All these, and 1 year professional or diploma certificate. All these are the academic course, and training course under NTBQF or BNQF. This is another program under BTEB. For 4 years academic diploma program, we use subject-based syllabus, content in behavioral objectives in the form of general objectives and specific objectives, using non-measurable action verb in general objectives and measurable action verb in specific objectives. Partial use of Bloom's taxonomy and limit of learning outcome. This is for the syllabus of the curriculum of 4 years courses, diploma courses. For 2 years academic certificate, and 1 year's diploma program. Traditional subject-based syllabus is used there. Content is behavioral objectives in some courses and a topics form in some courses. So it is mixed mode courses. Content in topics form as chapter without use of action verb. In content within a chapter, there are a lot of contents, but no action verb is used there. No consideration of Bloom's taxonomy and no limit of learning outcome in these courses. In training program under qualification framework, competency unit based occupational standard is used in CBT and A approach, clustered in 3 types competencies: generic, sector specific, and occupational specific, in the form of unit of competency, element of competency, and performance criteria with condition, qualifier or modifier, and some range variable. Use Bloom's taxonomy and only measurable action verb, and strictly limit of learning outcome in performance criteria. Separation of hands-on and cognitive skills, underpinning knowledge, and required attitude in the structure of unit of competency. This is newly approved qualification framework for Bangladesh. Previously, it was up to level 6, and that was called an NTBQF, National Technical Vocational Qualification Framework. The certification given as National Skill Certificate 1 to National Skill Certificate 6 or diploma. Here, for our school and madrasa education sector, SSC or Dakhil programs is there, SSC, Alim program, Fazil and Kamil program is there. If the student want to get the National Skill Certificate, they can go to the assessment center or the technical school and colleges where the vocational courses is running, and they can get the National Skill Certificate 3 after a SSC. And after SSC, after completing the bridging course, they can go to the national to the assessment center or to the recognized training center for training, and after assessment they can get the NSC 6. And this is implementing last 10 years in Bangladesh, but this year bachelor degree, postgraduate diploma or certificate, master degree and doctoral degree is extended in level 7, 8, 9 and 10. Someone asked question about the qualification framework. This is the structure of a qualification framework where the job class and qualifications are structured. This is the benchmark for qualification for a country. It is varied in country to country. We have 10 level qualification framework. Now, the government instructed us to transform our traditional courses to qualification framework structure. So we aligned 1 diploma technology courses to the under the qualification framework, that is the computer technology, 5 specialization of business management technology, and 29 SSC vocational trade course are transformed and converted to under the qualification framework. And here competency units and module based standard and curriculum are developed in CBT and A approach, clustering the unit or module and accommodate the subject forms in the form of unit of competency, element of competency and performance criteria with condition, qualifier and modifier and range variable. Use Bloom's taxonomy and measurable action verb in performance criteria and topics form in theory parts. It is called underpinning knowledge. And separate our hands-on or cognitive skills, underpinning knowledge and attitude in the structure of unit of competency. Now, our for implementing this qualification framework and transformation into competency-based education, we have already done within our capacity, but we have a lot of challenge. First of all, it is a very valid question. The tertiary post-secondary courses like diploma in engineering, which approach will be applicable for diploma engineering, and which approach is applicable for secondary and higher secondary level. So this is a question. Most of the person given we have some key informant and we take the interview, they given consent about the system. So during the conversation with the expert, you know, there is a very limited expert in this area. So these persons are interviewed and they said that we have lack of expert on both OBE and CBE in TBET sector, and conservative mindset on traditional systems of the practitioners, and onboarding the teachers to new system is our challenge. But they suggested that in Bangladesh, for future development and productive producing productive workforce, we should start learning by doing approach and partial CBE in our primary education. They suggested that CBE or CBT in secondary and secondary TBET sector is applicable, and government is already redesigned their courses, especially in NCTB. The primary and secondary courses are so far designed as per competency-based education. But they suggested that, like the higher education, OBE should be introduced in post-secondary or tertiary TBET, and already UGC suggested and instructed, including BAC, Bangladesh Accreditation Council, they suggested for OBE implementation for our higher education in our universities. This is the recommendation. This is from my end. If any question, it is welcomed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. K. Ahmed. I'm sorry, Dr. Mohammad Shah Alam Majumdar, sir. So I request to the audience, if you have any question, please ask. Our expert is waiting to respond to you. You can just wait seconds. We have not received any questions so far.
If I ask a question,
yeah, sure, sir. Yeah.
I'm K. Ahmed Alam.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
actually, no, it is not my question. It's a query to Dr. Shalom, sir.
Yes, sir.
So actually, in your Bangladeshi context, for the tertiary level, so which approach is much more practical and appropriate and useful? That means OBE or CBT? CBE.
Actually, CBT is for training.
Yeah.
So in university, if they practice any training, they should use the CBT. But my views is that outcome-based education is applicable and mostly favorable for tertiary education. That means for the engineering and other education in higher education. Right. Either it is general education or technical education. For universities, OB is no doubt it is the most appropriate approach.
Okay. So I have one question, that is, so how alumni from industry can contribute to develop educational framework or national qualification framework where they are not involved in the academia? So what is your opinion, how they can contribute to building qualification framework?
Actually, during the development of national qualification framework, I mean the Bangladesh National Qualification Framework, the 7 sectoral area is there. Every university teachers and the different sectors
Alumni.
are taken consultation, and also there are some meeting with FBCCI and other organization. They were involved in developing the national qualification framework. Actually, the industry people is not so much involved in national qualification framework. It is the main job is the academician will do that. But for any program, any new department, any new courses, any occupational standard, national standard should be developed by the industry people. So in both cases, outcome-based education and competency-based education, in both cases, the people, industry peoples are involved. But my observation is in education in Bangladesh, and for higher education, it is introducing the outcome-based education, and here academician is more involved in developing the program or curriculum. But for competency-based training, most of the cases, it is our mandate education for developing the competency standard. 80% people will come from the education industry, and DECOM process is used there. So in DECOM process, it is not opportunity to enter the academician. First of all, the standard, only the experts and the process experts will be there, and others, all the members is from the stakeholders like industry people, the person who works there, the employers, the professionals, the trade persons, trade union persons, and all the stakeholders are there for developing the competency standard.
Okay, so I have another question, that is, say competency-based education or say outcome-based education. So both of the cases, when we say conduct an assessment, so to what extent the rubrics should be different? What is your opinion?
Actually, this is very much important. Yeah. Without assessment, if we provided the training or provided the delivery of the lesson, it will be not a effective one. What is doing in Bangladesh? But this is the knowledge will be tested differently in different session, which is we are giving the certificate under testing the knowledge, but the performance, the competency should be demonstrated in a very structured, using a very structured tools is important for assessment. And also during the process or delivery of the session, or throughout the student life, the teacher should record the attitude of the students, and both knowledge, skill, and attitude should be come under these rubrics, and assessment. Then assessment will be the effective one.
Thank you, sir. So, Dr. K. Ahmed Alam, so do you have any question to?
No, thank you.
Okay, so it was a very nice experience. I believe it was a nice session. so who we are listening. So how OBE can be integrated in the literature study was completely reflected by the speech of Dr. K. Ahmed Alam. On the other hand, technical and vocational education are a suitable discipline of applying, say, maybe OBE. Actually, likely it was mentioned that that is likely to be CBE. It was reflected by the speech of Dr. Shah Alam Mujumdar sir. So both of our honorable speakers' insight could be a valuable addition in developing our national qualification framework, designing the framework. So which is our actually main theme of the session. So I again would like to thanks for the virtual summit in 4OB 2022. So with this, I conclude the session. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you, Lecturer, for the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, the audience also.
Yeah.